Today I am going to talk about my plans for my product, my speech, and skills I can use in order to create an effective speech. Now I know that the speech is the hardest part about presenting because the content that is within it will define your credibility and character, which is why you want to leave a lasting impression. I do have bad writing skills for my speeches and memorizing them, mainly because I want everyone to know everything I know. I worry more about the time that it takes rather than the actual content which isn't good. So when I present for the showcase, I will make a bulleted list for each section that I want to discuss in my speech. I will have sections and subsections that are phrases so that I don't get lost. I'm also going to try and remember what stands out the most and what is most vital for the overall project. Now for the time range aspect, I will have to speak in a normal and calm tone and try my best to get it done within 10 minutes and nothing too less. But I'm not too worried because there's a lot of information to include in the speech that I will need to discuss to get my point across, so I shouldn't be too far off. Now when I present to the audience, I want them to feel comfortable and relaxed, not as if they're being terrorized for not understanding and accepting the effects of corruption, or even feeling uncomfortable with the idea of corruption. I will need to read my speech over and over until I can memorize it, and I hope to memorize a majority of it and say it out loud without rushing or without any hesitation. Now, for the visual aid aspect of the presentation, I will use graphs, statistics, and demographics, as seen here. I want to use multiple visual aids so that I can seem more credible and trustworthy, because one of the things my mentor suggested I do is use those as building blocks to a successful speech. Mr. Blanco also recommended to say a few jokes or quotes to lighten the mood and ease myself and the audience in the overall conversation. At the end of my speech, I have to remember to say thank you and also ask the audience if they have any questions or concerns. My product is a business proposal for small and large-scale companies who are willing to cooperate with the plan's ideals of reducing corruption. As long as they follow the step-by-step guide, they will be able to reduce corruption within the company and encourage other businesses to follow in their steps, which is the main goal of my plan. I want to minimize corruption even if it's in one business to one city, because it only takes one person to make a difference, and if it is successful, other companies will follow in the same path, and it would expand to cities, and after that it would be in the hands of the state. Now, as far as my product development goes, I'm fine, but I need help finding a way to connect with the audience, because everything I wrote in my business plan is biased since it is from my perspective, but I feel my audience wouldn't stay interested since it's only one-sided. So that being said, I'm trying to find an effective way to persuade my audience because that's my biggest weakness. I also want to include more advanced vocabulary to make the presentation more professional and credible, because once again, the words written are an essential part of the presentation, since they will be spoken and remembered. I really am focusing on my speech since it is the one thing that will leave a lasting impression on the audience. And it is the most important thing to include for my presentation. My strengths would be speaking in public because my voice remains at a stable volume, and another one of my strengths would be the visual aids that I use to show my main ideas. I will use large amounts of statistics on corruption and also a large amount of demographics that I have found on Transparency International. And some of these facts and statistics are incredibly shocking to see. I want to provide visual aids that show a comparison to the United States and more corrupt countries and less corrupt countries, so that everyone can see the differences in the infrastructure. But when discussing a country's infrastructure, the economy and government play a major role in it. In that, which is part of the logic that Transparency International advertises in order to get global attention. The actual input of the valid and detailed information is one of my greatest strengths because I have all the required information and more than necessary in my proposal, which is a great thing to have, but I need tips on how to connect that all together and to also connect it into one central claim that will have my audience convinced that my product will work. Do you guys have any tips on organizing a speech also? When I present my product, I will use a serious yet comfortable tone towards the audience so that they don't lose interest quickly or doubt my research and knowledge. I need to practice keeping a steady voice, smiling at the audience, and keeping eye contact with the audience. I want my voice to seem warm and opening. In order for me to effectively present, I have to remain positive, be relaxed, and confident, so that my audience can be sure of my intentions and goals. Trust is essential in us selling an idea or product because people are putting in their time and money to hear my voice, and I want my audience to feel that I was worth their time and that they were able to learn something from me. I want the audience to feel inspired and encouraged in stepping up and understanding corruption. Thank you for your time, and please don't be afraid to leave criticism or any tips.